Hey guys, this is an update video for the Angular 2 projects course. Now, when we did this course a little while ago, we used the Angular 2 Release Candidate 4 version because that was the latest version. At this time, Release Candidate 6 has been released. So if you decide to use RC6 with the current course code, you may run into a few issues in some of the projects. So I wanted to make a video just to kind of explain some of the changes and at the same time show you how to update the first project. Now eventually we'll be updating the entire course, but for now you can take the information from this video and apply it to some of the other projects. So here's a working application of the first project. It's a very simple Angular 2 app that basically displays a Bootstrap template. And what we did was take some Bootstrap elements such as the navbar, the jumbotron, and the pages and turn them into Angular components. Okay, we also use the router, which also has some changes. So I'll show you how to update that code as well. And you can see when we switch from about to home, the page down here changes. Alright, now I think the best way to do this is just to recreate everything from scratch. That way we have no conflicts. Alright, now in most of the other videos we use the Angular Quickstart, and that has also been updated to the newest RC6. So you can continue to use that and it will give you the latest code. Alright, but for this video and this project we're going to create all the files from scratch. Alright, so we have this A2 website underscore RC4. This is where the original code is, the release candidate 4 code, and then we're going to kind of rebuild it in this RC6 folder. Alright, now I have this running. You can see in my command line here, I just ran npm start and we have it running. Now, one of the biggest differences between the two release candidates is the use of the app.module.ts file. Okay, if we look in our app folder here, we have app.component.ts, our routes file, and then main.ts. Well, with RC6, there's an additional file called app.module.ts, and this is where we're going to implement ngModel. And in this file is where we're going to include any inner components. So if we look in our components folder, we have jumbotron, navbar, pages, which has the about and the home component. And if we look in app.component.ts, we're including all of those in this file. And app.module removes the need to have to do this. We can include them all in that file. Alright, so it kind of cleans things up for us. We also don't have to include these router directives either. Okay, so it makes including other modules like the router or the HTTP module much easier and cleaner. So if we look at the Angular.io site and we go to get started, we're going to kind of follow along this. So what I'm going to do is scroll down to where we have this right here. We want to grab these files, package.json. I'm going to copy this, and in our new folder we're going to create actually, you know what, we'll run npm init, which will create it for us. So we're going to go outside of the projects or into the projects folder, and then I'm going to go into our new folder, which is A2 website underscore RC6, and then we'll say npm init. Okay, and I'm just going to enter through these because we're going to change them anyways. Alright, so now if we look over here in our new folder, we have a package.json file. And what we'll do is take what we copied here and paste that in. Notice that all the Angular stuff is RC6 now. And I'm just going to make this a little wider. Alright, so let's go ahead and save that. And then we're going to create these other files, this tsconfig.json, which I think is the exact same. These files haven't changed, I don't think. Okay, so we'll create another file here called tsconfig.json, and we'll paste that in and save it. And then we have our typings.json. So we'll create a file called typings.json. Paste that in. Okay, then we have our system config.js. Let's go ahead and copy that. And we're going to create a file called system.config.js. And we'll paste that in. Okay, we don't have to change any of these, so just close them up. Alright, so if we keep going down here, it's going to tell us to run npm install to install all those packages. So let's do that. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to create our app folder. So let's say new folder, app, and inside here we're going to create a couple files. We want our app.component.ts file. We want our main.ts file, and then we want the new app.module.ts file. Okay, and if we go over to the documentation and we keep going down, you'll see there's an example for app.module.ts. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that and paste that in the module file. And this is where we're using ng module. Browser module is the only one that is required to be able to run. So we're going to save that. If we keep going down, we'll see app.component.ts, which we'll copy and put it in there. Okay, none of this stuff has changed. This is all the same as far as including Angular core and all that, component, selector, all that stuff is the same. So we'll save that. And now since we created that component, we have to add it to our app.module file. So we're going to copy this updated code and paste that in here. And all that did was it included the app component and also added it to declarations and also Bootstrap. Okay, that's the only component that you need to add to Bootstrap. The rest of our inner components will just be added to declarations. So let's save that. And then we have our main.ts file. Paste that in. That's where we're actually bootstrapping the application. Save that, and now we should be able to run it. Actually, we need to create our index file. So this index.html, we're going to copy that and create a new file, index.html. Okay, we'll paste that in. Let's change the title here to, we'll just say Angular website. Save that, and now let's try to run it. So we're going to say npm start. And there we go. So our application, our RC6 Angular application is up and running. It's just telling us that styles CSS isn't found, so we can go ahead and create that. In our root, we'll create styles.css, and then that error should go away. Okay? So now what we're going to do is bring over those inner components into our new folder. So I'm going to open up the RC4 version in a window right here, and then this is the RC6. So if we go into app, you can see there's a components folder, so we're going to go ahead and create that. And then inside components, we're going to create these three folders. And pages. Okay, so inside Jumbotron, we just want the TS file right here, Jumbotron component TS, and also the HTML file. Copy those, bring those over. Okay, same thing with navbar. We want the HTML and the TS. And then pages. We want HTML and TS for both the home and the about components. Whoops. Alright, so now we have those. Now over here, you can see we have those three folders. So what we need to do is let's open up the app inside the RC4, the old one. We're going to open up app.components.ts. So open that in a separate editor just to take a look at it. And what we'll do is copy everything in here and paste it in the new app component TS. Alright, now like I said, we're not going to have to include all of these components here. We're going to grab these and cut them out, and we're going to bring them to the app module.ts. Okay, and we'll paste them in here. And then what we have to do is add them to the declarations. So right here we're going to put a comma, and we'll put these on a new line. So navbar component, Jumbotron component, home, and about component. Okay, so include those. And we'll save that. Okay, now we also don't need the router directives here, and we don't need these directives. So you can see how much that cleans up this file. All right, and that's one of the main purposes of app.module, to really clean this up. So we'll save that, and then that should be all set. Now let's just take a look at these modules real quick. So Jumbotron component TS, and we shouldn't need to change anything here. HTML, that same thing, nothing changes. Navbar. Okay, so in the navbar component, we don't need these router directives anymore. Okay, and we'll get to the router in a second. So we'll save that. Let's check out these page ones. So app component TS, that looks good. Or about component, home component, that looks good. So those are all set. So now let's deal with the router. And you'll see down here we're getting an error saying router outlet. We're having problems with router outlet because if we look at app component TS, we have that there, but we haven't set up the router yet. So there's actually some good documentation on the router. Let me see right here. Okay, so let's see. So first thing, we're going to have to add the base href inside of the HTML file. So let's go down to index.html. We're going to put this right here. And that's no different. That's in the old application as well. So we'll save that. And then we want to create this app.routing.ts file. Okay, so let's go into our app folder and we're going to create that file. app.routing.ts. Okay, and let's go ahead and just copy this, paste that in. Now we're going to have to bring in our components that we want to use. So all we want in the router is the home and the about. So we're going to change this to home component, and that's going to be in components/pages/home.component. Okay, and then we have our about. Go ahead and paste that in. Change that to about. Change that to about. Okay, now down here in app routes, for the home page, it's just going to be a blank, just an empty string for the path. We'll change this to home. And let's put a comma here, and we'll copy that. Okay, this one is going to be about. Change this to about component. And then we just need to export. So let's see, right here, we want to grab this. Okay, so export the constant routing module with providers equals router module.forRoot, and then pass in that app routes. And that should be it. That should be all we need to do here. So let's save it. Now in order to use the router, we need to go to app.module. And let's go up here, and we're going to import that routing file. So import routing from app.routing. Okay, and then we just need to include that in the imports like that, and we should be good. So let's save it, and now our website's showing and there's no errors. Okay, now all we have to do is implement Bootstrap. So let's go to our index file, and we're just going to use the CDN. Okay, let's grab this link here. Okay, paste that in right there. We're also going to need the JavaScript file, so we'll grab that. Okay, paste that in. And in order for that to work, we need jQuery as well. Okay, just grab this. Let's copy that and paste that right above the Bootstrap.js. And if we look at our site now, and I just want to add, I want to zero out that margin below the navbar. So let's go to styles CSS and say dot navbar margin bottom 0. Okay, now if we click on About, you'll see that it switches to the About page. And let's just get rid of the active class inside of the navbar real quick. So in the HTML, I'm just going to get rid of, let's see, this class active right here. Okay. And you'll notice that the text even stays light when it's on that page. So we have successfully updated from RC4 to RC6. Now until the updated version of all the videos in the course are done, I would suggest taking what you've learned here, taking app.module, as well as the new routing system, which both are actually easier than the previous version. I would take that and apply them to your projects, and I will include all of the updated versions of the project files. Now some of them use external technologies like Angular-cli, which right now still is in RC4, so some of the projects won't have the updated files because there are none. It would break. So but most of them we should be able to update to RC6, and those will be included. All right, so thanks for watching, and that's it.